Hey everybody, it's Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast, and over the course of my life, there have been a bunch of little principles of negotiating and relationships and things like that that I've heard people mention, and they really stick with me. One of those, I think we've talked about it before, I heard in the motion picture Moneyball, as Brad Pitt's character, he gets the answer he wants from somebody he's trying to negotiate with. As soon as he gets it, he says, "All right, great, thanks." He hangs up the phone. And the other dude in the room is like, "What are you doing? That was really rude." And he's like, "Hey, when you get the answer you want, hang up the phone." That one has stuck with me. I'm not sure I totally do it, but it smacks of truth and it has stuck with me. Another one that has stuck with me, and I don't remember where I heard somebody say it first, but it's the principle of don't negotiate against yourself. And on Facebook or something, we'll be listing some dumb thing that we're wanting to sell or whatever, and people will write you just ridiculous messages when you do this. And the one that you always get, and you all are yelling it already because you know what it is, because if you've ever sold anything on the internet, you know this is the one you hear on Craigslist or Facebook or whatever. It's always, "Well, what's the lowest you'll go?" Well, first it's, "Do you still have the thing?" "Yes, I still have the thing." "What's the lowest you'll take?" I don't even answer those. And maybe that's rude. Maybe I just lost some respect in your eyes. And you're like, "Well, you should still answer them." But no, I got a policy. I don't negotiate against myself. I'm not going to reply and knock down my number on my used blue jeans from 5 years ago that I have $10 on. I mean, they're nice blue jeans. They were $100 before. I put $10 on them just to make it worth the time and the gas to come get them. I've never actually sold blue jeans on Facebook. This is all hypothetical. But no, it's $10. I'm not going to negotiate against myself and be like, "Well, I was really hoping to get 10, but I guess I would take 5. Cool. Of the two, I guess I'll go with 5 then," would be the correct response on the part of the other person. It's just a good rule for living. Don't negotiate against yourself. And so if somebody's trying to get you to negotiate against yourself, one of the techniques that you can use to avoid making that mistake is just don't say anything. Just be quiet. They might think you're thinking. They might think you're mad. They don't have to know. You can just be quiet and let them talk it through for themselves. When you're negotiating, if the other person is talking a lot and you're talking a lot less, that's usually a very good thing. And I think we're seeing a moment like that in Esther chapter 8 with how Esther, who has proven herself to be enormously shrewd and sophisticated and knowledgeable in the quirks and personality uniquenesses of her husband, King Xerxes. So Xerxes, you'll recall, told Esther 3 times, "Hey, tell me what you want. What's your petition? I'll give it to you, even up to half the kingdom." He kept saying that. Well, finally, Esther comes out with it, and she's like, "I'll tell you what I want. I want my people to not get killed." And the king's like, "What? Who's killing your people? Who even was that?" And she's like, "It's that guy. It's the vile Haman right there." And so the king, of course, impales or hangs Haman on his own gallows. And then on top of that, he takes all of Haman's massive estate and gives it to Esther, makes her the wealthiest woman probably in the world at that point. Lowly Mordecai, who's been sitting outside at the gate in ways that I at least find to be a little bit reminiscent of Lazarus in Jesus' story in the New Testament. I imagine him having a tough time sitting out there at the gate at times. And we know he's been in sackcloth and ash. I mean, it's quite the reversal then when he is placed in charge of the administration of Esther's new estate and when he gets the signet ring of the king. So now Mordecai can write legislation. He can write stuff in the name of the king as well. And so Esther again pleads with the king to make this thing right. And there's a negotiation going on. She makes her case. This is what I want. This is what I'm asking for. And then I kind of picture here in Esther 8 and verse 7 that the king gets caught negotiating against himself. So Esther says, "If it pleases the king, and if he regards me with favor, and if he thinks it the right thing to do, and if he's pleased with me, let another order be written overruling the dispatches that Haman, the son of Ammedatha the Agagite, devised and wrote to destroy the Jews in all the king's provinces. For how can I bear to see disaster fall on my people? How can I bear to see the destruction of my family?" So that's her offer, or her request, if you will. And now Xerxes replies with this. King Xerxes replied to Queen Esther and to Mordecai the Jew, "Because Haman attacked the Jews, I have given his estate to Esther, and they have hanged him on the gallows." And you almost get the impression that there might be an ellipses right there, if such a thing existed in the original language, like pause, pause, pause. So I gave you all that money, and I hung the guy who was responsible for this. And then I kind of imagine Mordecai and Esther just remaining quiet and continuing to look at the king like, okay, yep, that already happened before I just gave you the plea that I offered to you. So yeah, And they just quietly keep looking. And then I imagine the king, who really likes to save face, reading the social cue and realizing that there's an obvious expectation that that wouldn't be the conclusion of the matter and that the issue has not been resolved. I imagine the king during that moment of uncomfortable silence looking around, and maybe everyone's avoiding eye contact with him in terms of his advisors and whatnot. And he looks back at Mordecai and at Esther and continues as though he always had more that he wanted to say. He was just doing a dramatic pause, and he adds this to it, perhaps having just negotiated against himself. Maybe not. It's just how I read it. Maybe not. Either way, this is what he says. Now write another decree in the king's name on behalf of these Jews as it seems best to you, and seal it with the king's signet ring, for no document written in the king's name and sealed with his ring can be revoked. And I think this is supposed to be funny. It's been really tense. It's been tense in our conversations because of what's going on in the world, you and I, that is. And it's been tense in the book of Esther, really since toward the end of chapter 5, when Haman goes home and decides that he's going to build a gallows to hang Mordecai. It's been tense. And now all of a sudden we get back to the funniest character in the whole thing. The funniest character is, of course, the clown king, because he's so regal and so authoritative, and he speaks almost with the voice of a god, put in his place of power by the great God Ahura Mazda, and I have declared that you shall have all of the wealth of Haman, and that he shall be no more. There you have it. I think that probably about gets it done, but it doesn't get it done. Then his underlings just keep looking at him, and then he comes back with this incredibly impotent completion to his big, boisterous, bold decree. So also, we're going to write another decree, and it's going to be in the king's name. What is he doing? He's making the exact same mistake he made before. He's outsourcing his authority just like he did with Haman. He hasn't learned anything. All of the messes this king has found himself in the book of Esther have been the result of taking advice from other people and having their actions play out using his authority. And this is the most explicit of them all. I mean, this absolutely rhymes with chapter 3, where he does the same thing with Haman to the exact opposite effect. Does he actually care about any of this stuff? At least Xerxes, as presented in this book, would seem not to really care about any of this stuff. He cares about his insecurity. He cares about himself. But now it's just a matter that he looks bad, and it seems like he doesn't like looking bad. But also, he doesn't seem to understand the anatomy of the problem, or care to understand the anatomy of the problem enough to actually propose solutions. So instead, he just does what he always does. All right, whatever. Here's my ring. Just go for it. Do it. Mom, we're hungry. Can we get food? Yeah, just whatever. Here's my phone. Use one of the apps. Order food or something. Don't spend too much. I don't know. I'm busy. I'm not saying that that's how Camilla is. I'm just saying that I can imagine something like that happening in a household. And it certainly happens here. But it's one thing for him to be like, all right, I'm going to make the same mistake I made before. You just write whatever order makes sense to you to fix it however you need to fix it. I got some things I got to go do. But he just has to tag on this last little bit, reiterating his authority, reasserting how he's the one who's in charge. And it makes him sound even dumber. For no document written in the king's name and sealed with his ring can be revoked. Well, dude, what do you just tell Mordecai to do? You just told him to go and write an edict that effectively revokes the one you already made. This is lip service. This is a sham. You can keep saying all you want that your decisions can't be changed, but you keep on changing your decisions. You're just getting away with it on imagined goofy little technicalities that everybody can see through. So he's doubling down on the same mistake. And in this case, the mistake is going to bounce the way of the heroes in the story. They are weaponizing the ring of power to defeat their enemies, whereas before their enemies were weaponizing the ring of power to defeat them. It occurs to me that maybe that metaphor might take us into places that were unintended, but whatever, I think you know what I mean. But then on top of that, he has to continue to keep up all of this bluster that maybe his dad could back up a little bit better, Darius, that is. But Xerxes, at least as presented here, at least in this moment of his life, he doesn't seem like he has the swagger or clarity about his role and what makes his role as king work and last. Seems like he doesn't have the clarity on that his father had during his reign. So he just outsources the problem entirely. There you go. Do whatever you want. Here's my ring. And I think that I have kinged pretty dang well here today. So I definitely did not negotiate against myself. It might seem like that to stupid people, but I was totally going to say that second half of the stuff that I said. Anyway, I am a king, so I speak with dramatic pauses from time to time. And that's what I was actually doing. I didn't add on that other stuff without even thinking about it or planning it to save face just because I said stuff that I thought would make you too happy. And then you just kept looking at me and didn't say anything. And then I got nervous. That's not why I did that. I didn't do it for those reasons at all. I'm the king and I totally have a plan. And my plan is to let you decide what my plan is. Okay, I got to go. Xerxes out. Bye-bye now. And that's it. That's what we get for Xerxes for the time being. That's kind of all we needed from him. And so now in the next verse, in verse 9, we're going to find out what Mordecai does with this blank check, because he can write whatever he wants to make this thing go away. Should be fun. All right, that's plenty for now. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.
This podcast exists because many of you kick in to make it happen, even though you don't have to. Learn more at thetmbh.com/support. We're grateful because that supports our family.